Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Bikini and the Brain with the lovely Ashley Kaltwasser.
Howdy.
In today's episode, Ashley,
We're going to be exposing our fitness flaws because you know what? No one's perfect. Not even us. Isn't that crazy?
Definitely not me. You're closer than me.
Yeah, I think it's good to kind of point out sometimes we struggle with things too, and sometimes we are off. And, it's not all sunshine and rainbows all the time. And as much as Adam likes to hype me up and tell me how good of a student of the game I am, sometimes I mess up too. So I think it's important to put it out there so that maybe, they can learn from us as well, because I think, it's good to even hear it from ourselves so that we're aware, some self-accountability thing, and that way we can fix it. And maybe we can even go over how we combat when we're feeling a certain way, or when we do mess up, how we fix the issue.
Yeah, and I think one of the important things is to talk about too is that I think everyone messes up, no matter what level you're at, that everyone messes up, and how do you deal with it? And nobody's perfect. And I think a lot of it that we can talk about today too goes into, off season and mindset and that type of thing. So yeah, I'm actually excited about this one because you do cast a big shadow on that, right? Because you do so many shows and you're in shape all year. And I think a lot of like bikini pros will be like, I don't know how she does it. And sometimes my answer to them is I'm like, I don't know how she does it either. Like it's crazy. Like it's tough, to always be in the zone like that. But it's good to hear like even you, and you've had your year where, you didn't do so good, and I've gone off of it a bunch of times. And so it's like, this is a very normal human thing. And we needed to like say, hey, it's okay. Everyone does it, even Ashley. And yeah, so.
Totally. So let's get into the first, I guess, point here, that, I will say, like, I'm a pretty motivated and ambitious person, right? But I think you've heard me say this before, ambition is much stronger than motivation. So not every single day I'm motivated. Not every day I'm like, oh yeah, I can't wait to work out. I'm going to kill it 100%. Sometimes I get to the gym and I feel like blah. Sometimes I'm distracted. Sometimes my mindset's not there. But I always remember when I'm in that zone, like I'm not feeling so good, like maybe this is just a mood. It's a mood, and tomorrow will be better. Sleep better tonight. Maybe I'll feel more rejuvenated tomorrow. I'll think differently, and I'll have a much better workout. And I think like what also happens as well is, especially when I'm traveling and I get home, I'm very jet lagged. So like there will be like a few days in a row where I do not feel like working out, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be here right now. But I have to quickly check myself and just say, you know what? I know why this is happening. You're jet lagged, you're tired, you're cranky, and that's why you're not motivated. But at the end of the day, you're ambitious. So that overrules anything, and I still push through. Maybe it's not 100% workout. Maybe I don't give everything, but I still give what I can on that day, and just recognizing that it's a mood, okay? It's a mood. Tomorrow will be better. I think is super helpful and important because we all go through those blah days.
Yeah. It's pretty rare where you're a crank though.
I think like you don't experience it, but ask my boyfriend.
Yeah, Hugo.
If I'm cranky.
Hugo. I've seen you be a crank with Hugo a couple of times.
Yeah. It's hard to be cranky with you. You're too friendly. So.
Yeah, I think you got a little bit crank after the at the Arnold.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were a little crank.
I was.
So, but
I was like,
yeah,
I was just
the weather got you, right?
Weather, yeah. I mean, I grew up in Ohio, so it's like, seeing all the sights that I used to see for the majority of my life, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I just want to get back home in the sun where the weather is nice. But yeah, the jet lag, man, it really does take a toll. Yeah. It really does, which is why it is hard to do shows that are so close to each other, that are very far apart in distance. Like that time change will get to you so bad. Well, it gets to me so badly. And just it takes a few days to recover once you get back home. Like I feel like if it takes like probably a good 4 or 5 days just to get back in my routine and feeling normal again, Like if I come from the East Coast to back home to Vegas, it takes a while. Like in the first few days, I'm just like, ugh, just not into it. But
see, I'm the opposite. When I go to East Coast, and that's the reason I don't like going to a ton of East Coast shows. I love the East Coast, like Florida. I always say Florida's like probably my favorite place. But getting there, it just sucks. The time adjustment, and the flights always seem to be like red-eye flights or like really crappy flights, and you lose so many hours. And so the first like 2 days I'm catching up, and then I get back here, I'm fine. But over there, I'm like, so you got it good, because it's easier to just recover at home. I feel like, because you're at home, you can just rest, whatever. Yeah. But when I'm there, I'm like trying to catch up the whole time on my sleep, and I'm always off, and it takes me like 2 days, and I'm like, man, that really ruined my trip because I'm only there for 3 days, you know?
Right. I actually feel like I better adjust to the East Coast time right when I get there, because I already wake up at East Coast time anyway. I wake up at like so early in the morning. But like getting back, definitely, I feel it. I feel it getting back, and it definitely affects my workouts 100%. I feel sometimes I'm just like, why am I even working out right now? I'm so exhausted, but you know.
So with you working out and like going through the workout, because I go through that, I've gone through that too. I think one of like my flaws too, my personal flaws, is I go through periods of extreme motivation in the gym, and then I go through periods of, and I would say they're prolonged periods of just kind of working out.
Yeah, you know, just like, going through the motions kind of thing.
Yeah, like I still have, I think, better workouts than like the average health and fitness person, but definitely worse than the average bodybuilder, for sure. And I'm like, I hate when I go there. I'm like, why did I even waste I feel like I waste time. And when I leave, I recognize it. I leave the gym and I'm like, I don't think like that would provide, even under the best case scenarios of nutrition, that wouldn't provide any gains, that workout. Like it's a very much a maintenance workout, if anything. And then you just go through periods of like, you know, weeks like that sometimes. How do you, like, what would be your suggestions on that for someone who's, you know, has to constantly evolve and that's the one thing, without cutting off that question too quick, that's the one thing that you've been really good at, is evolving with the sport and evolving with Bikini as it's evolved. You know, you've basically hit your physique every year with the current demands of Bikini, and are constantly, you know, it's been getting more muscular, more lean, and so you've been able to evolve with that. So how are you able to consistently do that when you go through those periods? Because you go through those periods.
I do. Yeah. You know, I just got to keep pushing on. It's just like I realize, I check myself, like, why am I feeling this way? Why am I feeling unmotivated this last week? Is it because of the weather? Is it because something in your personal life is happening? Are you distracted? Are there too many things on your plate, too many projects? Are you too busy? There has to be a reason for a dip in motivation. And I think you have to kind of ask yourself, what is the reason I'm feeling this way? Whether you feel that way for a day, or you've been feeling that way for a week, you know? And ask yourself, what is it? And I think for me, sometimes if I go through prolonged periods of just like maintenance workouts and not super intense, I think it's very date driven, to be honest, which is another one of my flaws, I guess. I'm very date driven, which means like if I have a show coming up in a month, I'm on it. Yeah. But if that show is like 2 months away, it's like, yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's why I like to always keep a show in mind, so that I'm always working towards something and I'm focused, right? Because I will lose focus. I will just go through the motions. If it's just like, oh, I'll just compete whenever, you know, we'll see, you know. I always like to keep some shows like in mind to do.
Yeah. And I think that's another one to talk about because it's a common one. Having a time-based deadline really is like a motivating factor for a lot of people. And so I think in fitness, that's actually one of the bigger flaws, to be honest. I think that's like probably one of the biggest ones, because I've been training since I was a kid, you know. And one of the things that I've noticed is that I'll have people motivated extremely where they'll adhere to their diet better than anyone for like 2 scenarios. And one is their first show, right? So not if it's a pro, but like a regular person, it's like their first show, they're the most motivated. Pros are usually motivated like for every pro show. That's like a pretty normal thing. But for amateurs, it's like their first show, they're super motivated, and they don't stray from their diet like at all. Like almost to the point of like, if they had to count rice, they would like grains of rice. And then also when people are getting married, like their wedding preps are like, I know that a wedding prep is going to be fine. Like the girl's super motivated for it. So those are like the 2 scenarios where I have people like 100% adherence. But I'm like, how come, like what's shifting in the mind where the adherence to that scenario is greater than any other time? How come we can't take that type of mindset and apply it like all the time? Right? Like what's the mechanism, right? Why is it happening there at such an extreme? We know that's within people because they're doing it, right?
Yeah.
So how do we take that out of them all the time?
Yeah. It might have something to do with pressure. I mean, pressure, love it or hate it. It might have something to do. I mean, for me, it's probably pressure. Like, I've got a show coming up. I'm gonna look my best. Like, I can't be slacking right now. Gotta look my best. So maybe it's for them. It's also pressure as well. Even getting married, it's like you're pressured to look your best, and
Yeah, it's a self-induced pressure.
Yeah.
So yeah, just with this podcast, I think it's fun to talk about, all the scenarios in which people fall off, right? And I think that the time-based deadline is probably the biggest one, because the off season, if we're talking about bikini preps and men's physique preps or whatever, the off season is where people fall off the most. Like
right.
it's and I don't know what the reasoning is, because when I talk to people, especially when I get like people will write into me like asking about training, like, hey, I want to figure out how much it costs for programming or whatever, right? And then they'll say, okay, when should I start? And I'm like, to me, that's a strange question, because you're never not in prep. If you're doing a show, you're never not in prep. You're either in prep to get ready to get on stage, or you're in prep to improve in the off season to get ready to be on stage better the next time. And it's always like there's never a time to start besides like right now, So, and that's the same with like, just weight loss and transformation too. It's like, well, why would you wait at all to even start? Like if you're already thinking about it. And it's a weird thing to connect with people on that. It's always been a struggle in the fitness world for me, and I'll have people like, yeah, well, I'll think about it. And I'm like, how long have you been thinking about it? Like, they'll be like, how long has it been since you've wanted to be in the best shape of your life? And they'll be like, oh, since I got out of college. And they're like 30 or whatever, right? And I'm like, so 8 years you've been thinking about it, but you think that thinking about it longer is the solution right now. Like, you don't think that taking action right now is the solution. And so, so it's like, it's a weird scenario because people don't connect those two, and they don't connect the off season with it affecting how much better they're going to be on stage. If they have a good off season, they just kind of like let everything go. And I'm like, and I'm guilty of it too. When I was competing, I've done that a few times too. And I think that everyone does. And I think that it's important to say that like most people have bad off seasons here and there, like at least a couple times in a prep. If they have a long career, like most people have had that. And I think that it's important that we say, hey, I've had it too. You've had it too. I've had it,
yeah, before I met you. But yes, years ago, especially in the beginning when I was first getting started and figuring things out. Yep, I've had many bad off seasons, many.
And so, yeah, so I think it's good to talk about too, because I feel like this is a good like grounding episode, right? Like, hey, we're not perfect. Yeah. Very few pros are. Very few pros are. And
no one's perfect, Adam.
Yeah, in terms of like their whole contest career. In terms of contests, yes, you're right.
Well, no, and everybody's going to make a mistake, even if it's a slight little mistake. Everyone's going to make a mistake.
Yeah, it's a tough sport. This sport is super demanding. There's no other sport that's as demanding as this one. And so when you walk into it, you really do need to understand, like you're basically asking of yourself to give the best that you can at least during the prep. And then I think because it's so rigid and people are so routined on it, when they get done with the prep itself, they have no time-based deadline, and it's like they're out of jail. It's like I got a jail free card, right? Like everything's done, and then it's just the whole world, the whole refrigerator opens, everything opens up. Yep. And I think that's one of the things I think we should talk about more in depth with eventually, maybe even bring in like Celeste again on something like that. That'd be cool. On like, how do we fight that part of it more? I don't know. What are your tips on that?
On fighting those off-season urges?
Yeah, the off-season. One of them for you, obviously.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, I do compete, but even after a show, this is where my mindset is at. And I've had to teach this to myself. And it's something that it was like an epiphany, like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So here's the thing. I think the off season, the biggest trigger to having a bad off season is what you do after a show. Okay. I am not saying don't go out to eat after a show, but what I am saying is have your treat meal. Then next day, maybe have a few things you haven't had in a while, nothing crazy, still stay kind of in your calorie range. But the Monday you come back, you're back on it, or you're starting your reverse or recomp. Okay. That don't let a cheat meal turn into a cheat week that turns into a cheat month that turns into multiple cheat months. Yeah. Okay. I think it's such a slippery slope. It's such a slippery slope. So my mindset is after a show, I want to be good to my body. My body worked so hard for me. So hard. Gosh, like I really want to treat it the best I possibly can. And that doesn't mean I'm going to shovel down Oreos or cake. That will do the opposite. That your body's not going to like that. Your taste buds might like it, but that's not going to be good for your body or your mind afterwards. So I like to have some wholesome, filling meals after, but nothing crazy. I want to be kind to myself because I worked hard. I'm not about to throw away all this hard work because I just went into a downward spiral. Yeah. So, I think there is even like debates too, if people on a weekly basis should have cheat meals or not, because sometimes that makes them want it more, right? But even more so after a show, your body's or your taste buds, I should say, are going to want the stuff it hasn't had in the duration of your prep. And I think you need to take into consideration your body and all the hard work that you put into it and not to abuse it, because it can go south real fast if you can't get it under control. Like if you're one of those people that you have a taste of something and you can't stop yourself, maybe you need to re-strategize your post-show meal and come at it at a different approach, because we're all different. Some people can handle it. Some people can have a burger and fries and the next day they're back on their diet. But some people, they'll have that burger and fries, which leads to the milkshake after, which leads to breakfast at IHOP with unlimited pancakes, which leads to chocolate bars. And then next thing you know, you're binging and going so over on your calories. And your body at that point is like a calorie sponge. Yeah. It is a calorie freaking sponge, okay? And you're probably going to feel like crap after. You're going to feel guilty. You're going to feel bloated because your body's like not used to having the foods all at once like that. And, I think it's just like it snowballs. So, be good to yourself.
Yeah. What's really weird is there's some things, this is a weird thing. And if there's like a nutrition scientist on here, he's going to probably blow me up on this one. But it's a really weird thing and I can't figure it out. And there's really high level people who can't figure it out. And I don't know what the reasoning is, but even Dr. Jacob Wilson, who's if there's anyone who's top guy in the world, this guy's he's one of them, so, but he was talking about it one time too. He's like, don't tell me post show that people can't put on, 20 pounds of fat. He's like, because I've seen it, and I've seen it when people aren't eating 20 pounds worth of fat calories, and it doesn't make sense. And there's something that's shifting at that point where your body's just, I don't know what's going on. He's like, but I've seen it. I've seen it with DEXA scans. I've seen it with whatever. And I was like, that is crazy because it's a bold statement to say because you really should, it doesn't make sense, because it should be X amount of calories over your maintenance, should be X amount of body fat stored, right? But it's like, don't tell me that it can't happen because it happens. Yeah. And it's the weirdest thing. And because if you are, these days, there's so much science and nutrition out there, and I'm pretty rigid on it myself. I'm like, no, and I'm still like, no, it can't happen unless, because you can't store X amount of fat without X amount of calories over surplus. But then after a show, something weird happens. And I'm like, I can't deny that that's happening, but I can't prove that would be the cause of it because it doesn't make sense calorically. But even Dr. Jacob Wilson, and I was always perplexed by it too. But Dr. Jacob Wilson was talking about it too. He's like, don't tell me that it can't happen because I've seen it happen. And if there's anyone that's super rigid on science, this guy, he does research, all this stuff. I'm like, okay, if he's saying it out loud, I can say it out loud because it's always been really weird to me. I'm like, no. And I'll have girls come up to me too, and they'll be like, I swear, Adam, I'm not eating more than I did a little bad, but I didn't eat more than 3,500 calories a day for 2 weeks. And I'm like, okay, let's say worst case scenario, you burn 2,000 calories a day, right? Let's say worst. So you're only storing 1,500 calories a day in that scenario. It wouldn't make sense that you would gain this much weight. Why did you, or this much body fat too? And I'm like, well, maybe it's just water retention. I was always like, maybe it's then I'm like, you're at 6 weeks, 8 weeks later, and you're like, that water retention is not leaving. Maybe it's not. It's a weird scenario. So I'm like, okay, either these people are not telling me the truth or something weird is happening inside. But after a certain period of time when so many people tell you that, you're like, they can't all be lying to me. Mm-hmm. Maybe a couple of them, right? Right. So, yeah, so it's something that I think that to put a little bit of in that off season, putting, not to like put fear out there, but to parent like, hey, there's something weird happening where you store fat way faster than any other time than after a really hard prolonged diet where you're kind of killing yourself. And I don't know what it is. And, you know, they don't do those studies on people who've been on these extreme things like a bodybuilding diet. And I think because we're in this bodybuilding world and it's so wrapped around health and fitness that we think that the bodybuilding thing is health and fitness, but it's not. It's its own thing. It's its own physique sport, which is an extreme sport. And we still are like, oh, no, it's just health and fitness. I'm like, no, the way that we do it is extreme. And so, yeah, the studies aren't going to go on the extreme. And I don't know, maybe when you're super low in body fat and your body's just trying to survive, like something happens. But it's a weird thing, and I don't even want to say it out loud because it doesn't make sense, you know? And it's like, but that happens. And so I think it's one of the biggest fitness flaws is that for people. And I know I hammer the off seasons, and I always want to talk about and be more like realistic with people and not set this crazy precedence of like, no, you need to be only 5 pounds above stage weight because you know, I know how rigid I am on that and how hard and how much pressure that puts on some people. But the reality is that something weird happens off season, like right when you're done with the show, and storing body fat's a lot easier. Right. And I want to avoid that because the problem with it is when you have that fitness flaw, and I have that fitness flaw. I've done it many times. What happens is you end up just chasing your last physique, and you're not improving your last physique. You're just trying to get back to where you were. And then you see those people just constantly chasing their last physique, and they compete 6 times, and they look exactly the same every time. And then towards the end, they're not getting as lean as they were towards the beginning because now they're not as motivated. And then the next thing you know, they're done with competing. And those are the same people like, oh, competing ruined my body or my connection with food or whatever. And it's like, well, it was your off season. It was all happened with your off season, you know? So I think that's the biggest fitness flaw for almost everyone out there, and the ways around it, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this isn't to say like, eventually in the off season, you can't have pancakes at some point or, you know what I mean? It's not that black and white, but I would say a good approach would be like, you know, ease into it slowly rather than all at once, right? Like every single food you've ever wanted, you know, during prep all in one day and going so above your calories and then prolonging that into the week. You know, maybe throughout off season, you can, you know, use that as your weekly treat meal. But I think it's important to keep ourselves in check and to do it over a slow period of time, not all at once. And, you know, that's why the post-show diets are so important, is to have that structure even in the off season. Of course, it's not as much structure as contest prepping, but it does keep you in check. And it does like prevent you from going too overboard, because that can definitely happen if the athlete doesn't have like a plan exactly or something given to him by their coach, you know?
Yeah, no, I think that you nailed that on the head, especially in the initial post-show diet. I like to keep it pretty clean and keep the foods like kind of high protein, low fats in the initial part. And then after they're in a few weeks, you know, 6 weeks or so in, what I like to do is then say, hey, let's do a free meal every day. Yeah. Maybe have a 500 calorie free meal and just eat whatever you want in that one meal.
Right.
And then that kind of gives people the ability to do this long term. Give them the, like, you know, they don't feel like they're sacrificing. Not everyone needs it. A lot of people, I'll give them the option and they'll be like, I don't even want it because it's going to throw me off. Like they'll say,
some people like that.
Yeah, it throws me off. You
get a taste and you just want it all. Once you get that taste, it's like, oh, I want more of this.
There's something to be said about meal plans. You know, the structure it provides people in it just, as soon as you get used to it, you know, a week in or so, and you get that structure, like there's just something to it, you know, it's like, it just makes it easy and routine. And then food becomes less and less valuable. I think it becomes later on, especially like when you're in a few weeks in prep, it's not the value of taste it's a weird thing, but it has like a diminishing effect the longer you're on a food plan. And then at the end, you're like, it's just energy to me. I don't even think about it, you know?
You know, it took me years to figure out how to cook things and season and flavor things how I like to, where I really enjoy my prep meals. Like I know we're talking about flaws, but I'm going to tell you an advantage of mine. I get cravings sometimes, but not as much as other competitors, it seems. Now, I'm not in their body, so there's no way to measure that, but it just seems to me I don't have like urges or cravings as much as the other competitor. Now, they do happen sometimes, but it's not, it's more like a 5-minute, like, oh, I want something sweet. You know, it's not like I need a burger and fries right today. I'm just going crazy. It's all I can think about. It's nothing that intense. So I think it's almost like I had to retrain my taste buds in a way, and to learn how to cook things and flavor and season how I like. And gosh, it's so cool that we live in a time where there's so many awesome diet options available, right? Like 15 years ago, they didn't have like sugar-free barbecue sauce. They do now. That's so fun. Like, that totally changes the way my food tastes. Yeah. And I'm already a picky eater, okay? You know, I eat a lot of chicken, but you cook chicken differently. It tastes different. You can grill it. You can put it in a crock pot. You can put it in the oven. You can dice it up and saute it. You can marinate it with like vinegar and whatever your favorite seasonings are or whatever. You get the point. You know, there's so many things you can do with it. You just got to learn what your taste buds like. So, you know.
You know what has been cool lately too has been Sam's trying all these recipes. Have you seen any of those recipes?
She's a beast at this.
She's really good at it, right? Sam and
she
Courtney,
comes in with baked goods sometimes.
Yeah, I'm pretty spoiled. She'll like cook double, like one extra one for me. But she's, I think pretty soon here where she's gonna be releasing like some of them, like some more of those recipes and stuff, like maybe even like a little ebook or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there's so much out there. Yeah. So, but now going back to like just overall fitness flaws. So we covered post-show stuff and how to do that. And I learned something today. I didn't realize IHOP had would you say limitless pancakes?
Oh, I don't know if they're real. I haven't been to IHOP in forever.
I didn't either. I was like, I didn't know that was a thing.
I'm sure they do have unlimited pancakes.
Okay, so
seems about right.
I was like, that's a thing. Like,
probably. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. There's this doctor I'm really good friends with. And she sends me, like, she'll take these pictures. She's like, look at the patients that I'm constantly working on. And like, she sends me these, like, it'll be like their stats, and it'll just be like their weight, not their name or anything like that. But she'll be like, look at this stats. Like, and there was like a girl who was like 4'11", like 350 pounds or something like that. And she's like, these are the people that I always see. It's always these people. So I'm always like, I'm wondering, I told her, I was like, do you know how they eat? Like, how do you get that big? Because it takes a lot of effort to eat that many calories. And then I hear these like, I was like, bottomless pancake. I was like, oh, maybe that's what that's going on here. I don't know, you know. So anyway, I'm just so you guys know, I'm trying to find our live on Arthur's phone here. I'm not on my phone physically because I want to answer some comments and questions you guys have, but I haven't been able to find it this whole time. So I haven't been scrolling the phones. But if you're on if you're on an Instagram live, feel free to jump on YouTube. I think it's on there. I can't find it.
And if you're on Instagram live and you complete this, just know that our actual episodes are on your favorite podcast platform, so you can go back into the archive and keep yourself entertained during cardio.
Arthur's going to figure it out now. But so we went into, you know, the post-show part, and then the motivation part that we kind of went into. So one of the things that I found that really, it's kind of it's like a backwards motivation for me. And I've only done it a few times, but it does work for me. So, one of them for me is tracking my weights. That's not the backwards one. Yeah. Tracking my weights. So I actually have like a little like book that I keep, and I write down my weights, and I try to, if I write down my weights on a good workout, well, then I know what my baseline is. I know what my standard is, right? Because if I'm in the gym and I'm like messing around and I'm not giving myself like my best, I won't even track my weights at all. I'll just kind of go through it. But if I have the book there, the book will tell me, okay, last time you did whatever, 100 pounds times 8 reps. So I know I'm capable of that. So I when I have the book and I'm doing that exercise, I know, okay, I need to do at least this because that workout was good, and I need to at least give myself that. Right. I can't do 90 pounds times 8, right? And so at least that kind of keeps me pushing through it, that kind of baseline numbers of where my baseline is. It's like if you're a runner and you're wanting to improve in running and you ran a 7-minute mile, like you would know, okay, anything less than that, if I'm only running 1 mile, like I better at least do 7 minutes, like that's if I'm not feeling great today, that type of thing, So if that works in that scenario, I'm not a runner. But Ashley's like, no, we don't train like that. But so that's one that works. And the other one for me, and I do this for clients too, where it's called a deload. And the deload is basically a way of you're taking time off of the gym, like 5 days, a week off the gym. So we call it a deload. And I do it when people are really either beat up or they stop making like progress completely, and we've tried things and it's like, okay, maybe we need to like bring it back down for a second. And another one I do it for is when their mindset's not right and their mindset's like, they're just going through the motions, like I'm going through the motions sometimes. And so if I take like, for me, I don't need much of a deload. I mean, maybe physically I need a deload when I'm working really hard, but when I'm at that stage where I need a deload, usually I'm not working out that hard where I need a week off. I need like just to get my mind right. And if I take, 3 days off of the gym, they say the deload should be like 5 days, but as soon as like day 3 hits, I feel so like, I know it's not changing me physically that much, but I feel so like fat. Like I feel like sloppy. Like when you don't work out, thanks, Arthur. When you don't work out, you get this, I don't know if it's like a little bit of water retention, like the more you do it, you just feel like ill, right?
That's how I feel if I go off my diet. But I can go a whole week without working out and not feel guilty about it. And I have done that before after shows, depending on my season. But if I take like 3 days off from like a diet and just eat whatever, then I'll feel sloppy.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
So for me, it's diet.
Okay.
I don't feel guilty about not doing workouts though.
So for me, it's a workout. I never eat bad. I'll eat like one cheat meal a week. So I'm always eating clean. I'm just kind of stuck to it at this point. I just feel gross if I eat bad. That's really the reason for it. It's like, kind of like you. Like I just don't feel good. Yeah,
which I definitely want to address this as well, because Adam always says I'm so perfect with my diet and that I never cheat. So there's some gray area there. So am I the kind of person that will go out and just have a huge pizza and mashed potatoes? No. Am I the person that will come home and eat a whole bag of Oreos? No. I don't really have a desire for cheat meals. I actually hate the way it makes me feel. I hate being bloated. My digestion is all thrown off by having a huge meal with foods that I'm not like accustomed to or haven't had in a while. However, I am a little bit of a sneaky snacker. Okay, so if I do cheat, like let's say there's like a little bit of a gap in between shows, and I'm like, I didn't have a lot of calories yesterday. I mean, I'll get a little snacky, and I'll pick up little things here and there around the kitchen. I'm definitely a snacker. I'm a sampler. Like I like to sample, but I don't like to fill myself up. So although this is kind of like a flaw, it could also, I guess, in a way help. Maybe that helps with cravings because it's not like I deprive myself of things I want. I might have like a very small amount just to taste test it. So I don't know. I'm a sneaky snacker. I'm not perfect on my diet. But most of the time it's a lot better than having a cheat binge or anything like that. I never binge. That's not a thing for me. Like I said, I hate that full feeling. It feels like I can't move around as efficiently. I like to feel stealth, So that's something I need to be aware of, because little snacks, they do add up sometimes, And I think not only just that, it kind of throws off our data, right?
Yeah.
So let's say I'm coming off a show and I have a few days, and I'm not really tracking it all that much. It might throw off the data, because how do you know how my body responded after a show if it's thrown off? So that for me, not a big meal person, not a cheat meal person, little snacks. I like little snacks, little tiny snacks. And I think another flaw with me when it comes to diet, and this, and I've mentioned it here on the podcast before, I don't really weigh my stuff. And I do not recommend you guys not weighing your stuff. I just don't weigh my stuff. My scale has ran out of battery juice since 2018. I have not weighed anything since. Yeah. Not. I'm just like, looks good enough to me. Whatever. Handful of this, handful of that.
Yeah.
And although it might not make a big deal, if I'm going show to show, because that's the thing, I guess I get that privilege in a way, since I compete so much. I'm always in shape like that. But I don't recommend people do that, because it throws off data again.
Yeah.
It throws it off.
The thing is, I've lived at your house probably how long? Probably 4 months worth of time over the last few years, because when we lived in different states, we would live she'd live at my house you probably lived at my house 6 months. We would just stay there for weeks on end when we're training and stuff for a show. And your food is very consistent, and looking at it, I'm that's about 4 ounces. It's
size of your palm.
Yeah,
meat the size of your palm.
I would estimate that you do some meals 4.4 and some 3.6 and some 4.
Right, and I'm sure as heck not even counting the vegetables. I'm just whatever.
Yeah. So with having a lot of experience with it, I think that's
true.
And that's the one, if you're going to cheat on it, if you're not going to count a macro, that's the one to like get away with.
Yeah,
right?
totally.
So vegetables and proteins, you can eyeball pretty easily. Like if it's like a fat and you're a little over, like that's a lot, it gets a lot more calories that way.
When it comes to fats though, I kind of specifically buy like nut packs that are already, or the peanut butter like Anya does too. Like it's already set for me. There's no guesswork there. But however, on those snacky days, if my boyfriend's just made a protein shake and the peanut butter's sitting out, I might just stick my finger in there and lick it. You know what I'm saying? So I am by no means perfect, because I got to be careful too, because sometimes if we say like, oh, she's perfect on her diet, it's like, well, I mean, technically I don't cheat meal, but I do snack. So I'm definitely by no means one of those hyper obsessive people when it comes to diet to be like, oh my God, it's 3 o'clock. I got to eat my meal right here, right now. It's kind of like, in a way, I kind of just feel it out too, because I will also add to that, if there's days where I'm not really that hungry, I just don't eat it. Like, let's say I have 2 meals left and I'm not hungry today, I'll just not eat it.
That's
bad.
You know what I mean? Yeah, that one.
So I don't do that. But I also think as well, it's bad to force feed yourself. Yeah. That causes bad habits. So what I'm trying to say is it throws off data. So if anything, the data's thrown off.
I think when you do that, that's when you start losing size for sure. Like when you're in like,
I'm not losing size. Like that's not a thing for me. I don't think I'm under eating. I think it's just
I guess
imprecise.
The only time I think it actually happened was like when you're in Europe and you weren't eating as much.
Oh yeah.
That would probably be the only time where we can say, okay, for sure you lost like a couple pounds of muscle. Yeah, you got a little smaller.
Yeah.
So
I do monitor my physique a lot though, you know, and if there's ever a time where it's like, Ashley, you're getting too lean, I'll probably debate you on it.
Yeah, that's the hard part. I would say that's a fitness flaw.
That's in my list.
Yeah,
competitor eyes. We can go into that next.
Yeah, you do have competitor eyes.
Eyes.
Cause I'm like, it's hard it is hard because sometimes you don't think you're lean enough and you are lean enough.
And then I will debate Adam. Adam will be like, you're looking really like scrawny and flat and small. And I'll be like, no, I need to get leaner.
Ashley's never thought she was flat in her life.
Because here's what I think. I think flat sometimes is a nice word for you're not muscular enough. And I'll just be like, I just need more muscle. And not necessarily need more calories. I just need more muscle. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. But I think competitors out there can relate. Like, they don't see themselves how their coach does. And that's why it's important to have a coach. Because, like, even whenever I was way too lean when I went to Spain show, I still at that point was like, I'm not lean enough yet. It's like, because your changes are so gradual as an athlete that, like, seeing yourself every day isn't a shocking thing. But, like, if you, like, for example, if I didn't check in for a week and then you see, like, you'd be like, whoa, you came down a lot this week or whatever. And it doesn't help too that in Spain I wasn't weighing myself or measuring either. So I was just going by mirror and photos. But yeah, I tend to get like that. I will be a little bit stubborn and scared to carb up for shows because I get the competitor goggles or the competitor eyes. And Adam will say, you're too lean and your hamstrings were too crispy or whatever. And very rarely do I think I'm too lean. If anything, I don't think I'm lean enough. Constantly. I think there's only been like 2 occasions where I'm like, whoa, I'm too lean right now. Whoa. You know, and then I was like freaking out, like, give me the carbs. But 9 times out of 10, you got to really talk me into some carbs. Like, because carbs are scary to me.
She is.
When we're talking about a peak week scenario, carbs are scary because the whole rebound thing, the whole like spilling over phenomena. Like, you know, like, I don't know. For me, like, when I see like fat or protein, I'm like, there's no way I can go overboard at this point with that. It's not going to make an effect on my physique yet in this week span or whatever. But like carbs are funny because they can definitely make you look drastically different in the span of a few days. Like you can overflow basically. And then I get scared, like, oh, I'm going to ruin my whole physique. Oh, I don't want that. So I get the competitor eyes. I'm never really that sure about myself. Like, oh yeah, this is perfect right now. I'm always like, no, I got to get leaner. Oh my gosh, I'm not ready. Got to get leaner.
It's a tough game to play. They do have it on, well, in a more people now, but definitely you have always been someone the last like 3-4 years where they've been like, get tighter, like you need to be this tight. No, they never say get tighter. They just say you need to be like tight. Like your margin of error, I say, is less than most people. You know, they really have a specific look they like on you. So I get that. I definitely understand that. But that is tough to always have to be the condition girl, you know? And then when you get some carbs in you, yeah, you're running a risk. You're playing game with those carbs. There's a certain amount where it's the perfect amount.
Carbohydrates are the devil's macro.
That's funny.
But
yeah, you've gotten better. You've gotten better of the carb.
God bless you, Adam. God bless you for staying patient with me. Because even though I will question you, like, are you sure, Adam? I don't know. I'm feeling kind of fluffy. Like, I will question you, and I probably will continue to question.
That's okay.
You. But thank you for being patient with me and being like, you know what, Ashley, this is the competitor eyes talking. Yeah. You know, because I will always second guess it just because, I don't know, they scare me. But I shouldn't, because you know what you're doing. But, you know.
No, it's a scary thing to take a risk of spilling, because the spilling looks like if you spill over, it looks like you're 2 weeks out. You know, like that's the difference.
Exactly. And that can happen in a few days, like, you know, and I think like I'm a competitor too. Like, I always like to play it safe, right? Yeah. I like to play it safe. I'd rather come in looking flatter than trying to push that absolute limit of carbs and then potentially spill. Because when I spill, I spill. You gotta mop the floor, you know.
Yeah, we just mop
with carbs.
Actually, up
with carbs.
Drain the mop like 3 times worth of carbs in the bucket. So with going into, you know what, the one thing I wanted to go into too on the deload again, real quick on the deload. So one of them, you know, not just the motivation of the mind, but it kind of, when you take, back to the deload, like you're taking like 5 days off, a week off the gym if you're not super motivated. The other thing it does is it kind of resensitizes you to exercise. It kind of, because there's a certain point of exercising where you're exercising so much, you're lifting so much weights, and you keep progressing and progressing and progressing. And at a certain point, there's just no more you can progress to any farther. Like you've kind of progressed as much volume as you can get to, as much frequency as you can get to, as much intensity as you can get to. And then you're like, at a certain point, you have to bring that back down to restart again. And so you kind of resensitize yourself to exercise. And when you go back in the gym, you're like super motivated. And then you can reduce that super, super high progression that you reached and then start again and kind of you're resensitized to exercise to some capacity. I mean, you're not like a newbie again, but you're getting, you're able to do less and get more results from it again after you take that deload. So that's another thing that's really helped like my mindset of going in the gym.
Yeah, it's like a mental recharge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like that. And then it's, and the other thing too is when I'm in the gym and I know that I'm not giving it my all, kind of like scaring myself with the deload too. Like, you might need a deload. And I'm like, no, I don't want to take a week off the gym. I kind of like scare myself with it. It's like a self-threat. It's like, I'm going to give you a deload if you don't push harder. And I'm like, no, I don't want a deload, Adam. So it's like an internal conversation that I'm having with myself. And then I'll usually talk myself out of it. And I'll be like, you're just being weak. Like, stop being a little bee and lift some weights, like that. So I can usually like go through those motions, but that's definitely my struggle is the motivation part of it in the gym. I never will miss a workout, but it's the intensity of the workouts vary dramatically,
Totally. And I can see even from your end, you're very busy. You've got so many things on your mind. It's probably distracting at times as well, knowing that like, I'm working out right now, but then I also got to answer this email, and then I got a meeting with this person, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And I'm sure that also kind of weighs heavy on your mind to kind of like distract you from like that mind to muscle connection in a way, I'm assuming.
Sometimes, yeah, it gets a little, the only problem, that's the problem with doing this, is that to be good at it, you have to be obsessed. Yeah. And the problem is when you become obsessed at anything, it's good and bad, right? Mm-hmm. Like most things, it's good and bad at least, but this one it's you can't turn. I don't turn it off ever, and I wake up thinking about fitness. I go to sleep thinking about fitness. I love my life, but yeah, to live in that world of fitness and being obsession of it for so long, it does become difficult. Like, because you don't get free time, you're just in your mind about fitness and how can you. And so sometimes in the gym, I'll be thinking, okay, how could I? And I'll like look at other videos and look at other people and look at Bikini a lot. And I'm like, how could we have done this prep better? How could we? So it does distract from you, because then the next thing you know, you'd be on my phone. So I try to not do that, but It takes over. Yeah, it does take over. That does get a little bit in the way sometimes, but that's an excuse, and I'm trying to never let that.
Yeah, and you know what? I think it's also important to realize that you gotta check yourself anytime like you start to think like this is an excuse or I'm rationalizing, and I think that's one of the reasons why we even when we have our days we push through, because sometimes I realize myself thinking of an excuse, and I'm like, wait a minute, no. This is, I'm in my mind, I'm rationalizing something. I'm making an excuse for something. I can own up to it and move forward and find a solution. Because I can make excuses all day why I don't have to work out tomorrow. Okay. But I find a solution instead. Instead of wasting your time making excuses, just come to a solution. You might have to, negotiate with other priorities or whatever, or you might have to, make it a little less convenient for yourself, but you got to push through and stop giving excuses.
I think that is a true thing. And I think that you do that. Like, I can verify that you do that. That's like a thing. You're like, no, I do like that about your mindset. And I try to do that to my mindset too, is like, just tell yourself, like, you're making an excuse. Like, stop being weak. You don't get to give yourself that excuse. Yeah. Like, because it's that voice turns on in your head and he just gets louder and louder and louder. And the next thing you know, he's just controlling everything, Mm-hmm. Like I would say one of my weaknesses would be doing like cardio consistently. Yes. And that's something that I have to like make myself do, like cardio. So like this morning I did it, and I was going to be I was like, okay, it's already 8:30. I got to do my 20. I just do 20 minutes cardio every day just for like heart health. And then I was like, well, I could just work out because I got to meet with the landscaper guy, right? And so, but I was like, no, that's more important than anything. And that's like I prioritize it because that's something that I always want to, like, I want to be here as long as I can. And that's like more important than having muscles, it's like taking care of my heart health, and so cardio is like an important part of it.
Definitely.
So yeah.
But you kill it with the diet though. I got to say, I mean, I don't know if I was not competing, like you adhere pretty well. I mean, you're not like prep dieting, so I guess it's a different scenario. But I see you eat pretty dang healthy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm impressed. Most people don't, that don't have a goal like that. But
it's
really
funny.
Keep it under control.
Well, thank you. You know what's funny is I didn't realize how clean I would eat, because I've just gotten used to it for so long. And like, there's nothing at my house, right? And so when I was in Denver, a lot of people would fly into Denver, and like you'd have like people staying at my house all the time, and pros would be there. And it's funny because there was a pro texting this other girl. She's like, he has nothing at his house, right? Is there nothing ever here? Like, what does he eat? I was like, and they told me, they're like, everyone complains you don't have any food in your refrigerator. I'm like, dude, what do you guys need? Like, I just eat chicken and rice. What do you guys need?
Right. Yeah. That's true. That's true.
Is that funny? So, okay. So you have another list of your other flaws?
I have many flaws, Adam. We could be here all day. But I'm going to touch on some more fitness flaws. You already know this. Most of the podcast listeners know this.
Can I cut you off for 1 second? I'm sorry. If you guys are watching on Instagram or on YouTube, you can throw in your fitness flaws here, and maybe we can address some of them. We're live on YouTube right now, so throw it in the comments, any flaws that you want to maybe see if we have the same ones, and we can come up with solutions for. So anyway, go ahead, Ash. Sorry.
So I'm not a big sleeper, not by choice. I do not have good sleeping habits, okay? And I'm a morning person to a fault. Like, too much of a morning person. Like, if I sleep till 4 a.m., it's a good day. I slept in if I slept till 4 a.m. Usually it's like 2:30. Yikes. Not good. I do go to bed kind of early though, but not only am I not getting as much sleep as I should, but when I say I'm a morning person to a fault, that means if I don't do cardio by 9 a.m., it's not happening. Because my motivation decreases. Now, with the lifting, I could probably prolong that to the afternoon, maybe like 12 p.m. But you already know, if it's past 12 p.m. and I didn't lift, I could still work out, I guess, but it's not going to be the same. Yeah. Especially with cardio. Cardio is a done deal. If it's not before 9, it's not happening. It's not. My motivation is so high in the morning. I'm so like motivated in the morning, and then it kind of decreases as the day goes on. But going back to the sleep, yeah, I never have a problem falling asleep. It's just I wake up so early. My body doesn't even need an alarm clock. It's like 3 a.m. Oh my gosh, time to get the day started. And it's like weird because it's like, it's I wake up way before the world does. Like sometimes 2, sometimes 3. 4 a.m. I actually slept till 4 a.m. today. Good job. But let's also blame that on the daylight savings.
Yeah.
But I really haven't figured out why my sleep is like that. I don't think, looking back on, years upon years, I never was a big sleeper anyway. I never really was one of those people that slept, like could sleep 12 hours or take naps. Like I don't know. I'm such a morning person that my body wants to wake up so early, and then, but I go to bed like 8 sometimes. There was for getting used to the time change here, I was going to bed at like 7.
Jeez.
I know. I know. But,
The crazy part about that is that Hugo's sleep time, her boyfriend, he's like sleeps at what, midnight?
We sleep
1?
at opposite times. Yeah. I will wake up and he didn't go to bed yet. So I guess that works. But yeah, I wish I could sleep more. I mean, I would love to be able to sleep like 10 hours and not even think about it. Like that will never happen here. I usually sleep like 6, sometimes 5.
Yeah, it's pretty important.
If I get more than 6, it's a good night's sleep. Like 7's like, whoa. 6 is probably average right now.
The only time I see it, like,
it gets worse as I get close to a show.
Yeah,
so as I get close to show, it'll be like 5 hours.
That's when I start worrying about it, because I'm like, she's stressed. I could see it on her face.
I
she's
honestly
stressed about it, and it's
I think like too. I don't really connect I don't have deep thoughts. Okay. I'm a very black and white person. Like I'm not, but I might kind of, even less sleep, it might have something to do with I'm getting anxious. And I don't want to admit that because I don't know if I connect with myself on that level to where I'm aware subconsciously. Does that make sense?
I notice it on you when you get close. Like when you're tired, I can see it on you. Yeah. Like it's in your mood, your actions, and like not really your physique so much. I think that your physique gets a little more stubborn when you're
because
you're not
the
sleeping.
Intensity isn't there.
That must be it. Yeah, because that's something I notice. Whenever you're tired, the physique is progressing less. So, but it doesn't like regress so much. It's just progresses less. Like if you're like that last little bit, it like becomes really hard when you're not sleeping. That's a thing for sure. But and then you're just shorter. Like you're just more quiet. So yeah.
I didn't decrease my height. I just
yes, you're shorter in your sentences.
Yes, that's true. I'm less social when I'm tired. But like, yeah, I would say just the majority of the problem becomes the last few weeks of prep and things I guess are heavy on my mind. But any other time I'm like a 6 or 7 hour sleeper. It's just when I get close to a show, it's like, ugh.
Yeah, and I think for everyone out there who's going through that, like in their preps, you just look at a few things you got to look at. One is obviously your stress levels with other things outside of the things that like your work, your relationship, all that stuff, because it really does keep your results from happening as fast as they should. If I have someone with a stressful job and they're like, let's say for example, I got a couple people that I've worked with before that were like CPAs. And when that tax season comes, like April comes around and people are filing their taxes, like I can pretty much, like they pretty much don't get results. Like it's crazy how much it slows down because they're like, we're just working all the time. I got to get all these deadlines. Like the company taxes are due at whatever time. And like you see it and I'm like, man, it's crazy and you can look at their graphs. Like I have all their charts in my system and I look at their charts and it's like a pretty linear path down. And then that month hits and it's like flat. And then the next month after they're done is like, as soon as they're done and that stress goes, it's just like way down. And I'm like, what changed? Like, well, I'm sleeping a lot more. I'm not really stressed at work. I got all my tax stuff done. And I'm like, and you could see it physically on a graph. And you're like, whoa, it's pretty crazy how that works. So I think that there's a big correlation with that. And so if you're in prep, one of the things I'll say is, your sleep is super important. Be careful with how late you're drinking or taking stimulants. Like if you're drinking Monsters at 5 o'clock at night and you're trying to go to bed at 10, like good luck.
Yeah.
It's going to really,
It's like a big cycle too, because you are tired and you got to work out. So you're going to consume extra caffeine and that's going to keep you up for the night that you go to bed, or that night you might have a hard time falling asleep, and it just kind of snowballs. Yeah. I'm always aware like, oh, no coffees past noon. That's a rule with me. I'm like, I will not drink a coffee past noon. So Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like a mental thing, perhaps, but we're all different, and I'm sure there's also other reasons too. If you don't have as much calories as you're used to, perhaps I don't know if you want to get into that. I don't know if there's correlations with that as well, like or your carbs or something.
With sleep?
Yeah, like if your blood level or blood sugar drops or something, or how does that work?
I don't know if there's a correlation with sleep. I'd have to look it up. I don't know that one, but that would. I mean, it is strange that when people are more like in bigger caloric deficits, I will say this is just like as a like me just seeing it. It's weird that people would be in bigger caloric deficits and typically more tired, sleeping less. Right? It seems like the best way to preserve energy when you're in that state would be to sleep more.
Yeah.
And like intuitively you would be like, oh, the body probably is just going to try to reserve some calories here and just put you to sleep. But you don't hear about people just sleeping so great during prep. Like no one says that I've heard at least being like, I love prep because I sleep so good.
Yeah.
Like no one says that, right? It should be the case though. Like you burn the less calories. So it seems like your body would just intuitively just slow down, right?
Yeah.
People move less, but they don't sleep more. Like they'll move less, like they're more like lazy, but they don't actually. It's a weird thing, right? So I don't know. Maybe there is something to that. That'd be a fun thing to look into.
Yeah, I feel like there's so much that goes into sleep. It's a funny thing, but I feel good today, so
Yeah, and I had another comment on YouTube here. Christy, she was saying that she says she's like that when she's working out in the morning before work. If she doesn't work out in the morning before work, then her workouts are crappy after work, basically.
Yeah, that would be me too.
That's me too. That's why I started having to work out. I just work out in the morning now.
Get it out of the way.
One of the things that was really hard, so I actually used to be the opposite way, because the way that like I look at the world with like prep, I'm like, no, the clients always come first, and I got to get their stuff done before I get my stuff done, right? And then I did that for many years. And so I would go to the gym. If I went to the gym early in the morning, I would feel that weight on me of like, oh, there's a check-in waiting for me on the computer. And I couldn't concentrate. Right. And like, I would look at my phone and like, look at that check-in, and it just haunts me. Like it's like, I only do check-ins Monday through Thursday, unless there's someone doing a show. But if someone like checks in on like a Saturday, like it haunts me. And like, I know I'm not supposed to get to, because it's like, those are my rules and they're checking in late and it's their fault. But it like sits on my mind, and like it just gets way heavier and heavier. So I used to do that with my workouts, but now I've learned but then what would happen is I would go and do all my check-ins, and then I'd go work out, and then I'd have crappy workouts. So I was like, okay, I know that in order for me to be my best, to give them my best, I need to be my best too. Like it needs to be in synergy. And so now I've gotten to the point where I can work out and not think about those check-ins. I got to be here by 11 because our cutoff is 11 to check in. But now I'm like, okay, I don't think about it till then, and then I'm good. Unless someone's like doing a show that week, then I'll wake up, do their check-in only, and then go to the gym. But that's just a mental game I had to play with myself, because it was either have crappy workouts after the gym and don't be anxious while you're at the gym in the morning, or kind of train your brain and just say, hey, like you need to take care of yourself first. So yeah, there's all these like mental manipulations, right?
Totally.
In order to keep these like our own like idiosyncrasies like out of the gym, right? Like that's one for me that I was like, it took me a while to get. And until I had like a full-time assistant, I really didn't have that. Like she's like, I was like, what time do you like want to come in? She's like, I want to come in like at 10. And I'm like, okay, I'll just work out first. And then it created that habit for me. So it was kind of nice.
Good stuff. I will say probably my last one that I can get through here on the fitness flaws list would be one of my flaws is that, well, I've always kind of been spoiled when it comes to training. And I've always had a trainer, whether that be for gymnastics or track. Someone's always told me what to do and will train me. And I found that like when I train by myself, I don't push myself as much as somebody else would. And I think sometimes it's because I zone out, or I'm just like, meh, it's an accountability thing. Like, oh, I don't need to finish that, whatever. But I realize that about myself. I've been kind of spoiled with training. And, thank gosh I have Sam and you here to push me. But, in order to combat that problem, I've enrolled in, Orange Theory classes, which I think works. It helps for accountability. And of course, I train with Sam regularly. She keeps me on track. If I'm zoning out, got to get back on it, So I found that out about myself. I don't know if you ever train harder when someone's training you, or if you're...
No, 100%. 100%. And I'll do that for periods of time still. Like, I'll still hire a trainer, you know, it's not for prolonged periods, but I'm not competing, you know. It'll be just like, I want to, let's say, like for me, it's more like, okay, I want to get my abs for whatever thing, right? And so I'll be like, I'm going to hire a trainer for 12 weeks. And I'll tell the coach, hey, I'm going to hire you for 12 weeks. We're going to train like 4 times a week. After that, it's it. Like, so don't think I'm your recurring client forever. Just 12 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever. And I've done it with Josh. I've done it with G. I've trained with like quite a few of our coaches actually for periods of time. So, and it's nice to have that extra push and that extra, it's just the way it is. Like, you work out harder when you're with someone. And if you can't, like, if you're young and you're, you know, or just you can't afford to have a coach, you know, 4 times a week or whatever, find a good workout partner, a good friend that'll keep you motivated. That's actually that you can count on, though.
Definitely. The
worst thing you can do is find a workout partner that derails you because they're not as serious about you. So like, make sure they're the right person. Cause I've been through that before, and I had a good friend of mine I started working out with, and he was like a big dude, and I was like, oh, this is going to be great. And at first, like the first week, 2 weeks, it was like awesome. And then it was like, oh, I'm just not going to work out today, man. But then we were on the same workout routine, and it would screw my workout because then I wouldn't work out because I wanted to do chest with him the next day or whatever, right? And so it really derails you pretty fast. So just make sure if you pick the right person, like, you guys make an agreement with each other.
Yeah,
you're like,
totally.
hey, this is what we're going to do for this month is our workout routine. Like, you're not missing a day. I won't miss a day no matter what comes up. Like, we're going to do this, and that type of thing.
Totally.
And then you have yourself a free trainer there, and you get a good friendship out of it. And that's one of the things I really like about the sport, especially with our team. The girls become friends, you know, and it's really cool that they make these like lifelong friends. I mean, I can't tell you how many like relationships have been built like from the sport, like just hundreds and hundreds of people that I've seen and worked with and introduced and whatever. But the friendships, like, where people become like lifelong friends because they met through prep or their gym friend or whatever. I think that's a cool part of it too.
Definitely.
Because we're kind of similar in that we kind of like isolate a little bit. Like, we kind of both do that, but this, you know, making friends that there is a fun part of it too. So, I think a super motivating part, and it's a free trainer basically, you know?
Totally. Yes. And as well for cardio, you know, if you don't have friends who do cardio with you, there's so many like workout classes that you can enroll in, like Orange Theory or spin classes, just for some accountability. And in fact, I used to run 10K races because, hey, if I signed up for a 10K race and I already paid for it, I'm going to do it. Well, it's fun, you know? And I'm running with people, which makes it less sucky. So, yeah, I just feel like I realize that I don't get as good of workouts if I'm just alone, especially when it comes to like legs and stuff. So, always make sure to train with Sam.
Was it you that won like a 5K or 10K race? Like you went first as like the females?
I've won many of them, Adam. What are you talking about?
Someone was telling me the day, I was like, maybe it was you that's pretty cool that you could do that still.
Yeah, I've won some.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. That's pretty cool that you could still do that. I thinking,
I wouldn't say still do. I haven't done it in like ever since COVID. Oh. So I haven't done anything before quarantine because they kind of canceled all the races, and then they're probably up now. I could probably look into doing one, but
they had a big one in Ohio at the Arnold.
Pump and Run. I was looking at that one. I'm like, that one would have been. Whew. Can you imagine doing a show and staying up so late and then doing that the next day? That
it was called Pump and Run.
Pump and Run.
You know what sucks about that is there was a lot of. I felt so bad. So like a lot of people left. It was Sunday morning, like they caught early flight Sunday morning, and that they shut down the street in front of the hotel on Columbus for that. So all these people Ubered, and they didn't know that the street was shut down because you can't tell when you're inside the hotel that it's shut down. There's just no cars driving, you know. But there's still people that are parked there on the side from like the night before, or whatever. And so like you couldn't see. So all these people are waiting for their Ubers, and their Ubers like, I can't get there, and they're trying to make flights, and they have all their suitcases.
All their suitcases.
So there's all these like, you know, competitors and trainers and stuff. With, you know, competitors, you know, girls have 2 huge suitcases for a show with all their makeup and suits and all that. And so they're like trying to walk like around the block, and it's freezing cold. And I was like, I felt so bad for they're all outside, like trying to figure out where their Ubers are at. I don't know how many people missed flights because of that, but they shut down the main street. Yeah. So yeah, that's rough. So, anyway, so with that in the fitness flaws, I think that was pretty fun.
Do you have any more flaws that you want to get off your chest, Adam? Now is the time. Now is the time.
I think my biggest one is just the staying consistently motivated. And it's harder to not, I definitely do agree with you. It's harder to not have like a time-based deadline, you know, because I don't have anything that I'm getting in shape for now, you know. If I get in shape for anything, it's like not even a shirtless event. Like it's like, oh, I'm going to go to the Arnold. I better, you know, tighten up a little bit. Or, oh, I'm going to go to the Olympia and walk the expo or whatever. I want to tighten up a little bit. Like I don't go to like, I'm not a party guy. I don't drink. I don't go to clubs. So like I don't go to these pool like clubs or anything out here too. So I have like no like deadline, right? And so for me, it's just staying motivated just for my own personal, not having, I don't have any external motivation in terms of deadline. So that's kind of, so for me, it's just always like staying in shape, but then it can turn into getting lazy. Like it can turn into, there's so much no need for it that there's almost no purpose at some point, but I do it. So it's like finding that for you purpose, I think is something that I'm pretty good at because I've done it since I've worked out since I was 13. I've like never taken more than like a week off. Well, I was injured once, but besides that, I never took more than like a week off at a time. So it's easy for me to stay routine, but it becomes so routine that I can just be going through the motion. So that's my biggest thing. I know that's my weakness for sure. If I can stay 100% motivated and 100% effort all the time in the gym, at least like 90% of the time, I think I'd have, 10 more pounds of muscle on me. And that'd be a good thing to have 10 more pounds of muscle on me.
Yeah. There we go. Well, it's good that we're aware of our flaws so we can constantly keep them in our mind and know how to combat them. And hopefully that helped you guys out there who might be dealing with similar flaws, you know?
Yeah. What's your biggest one, though? We should go into what's your biggest one? What would you say?
My biggest one. It's the sleep.
I was going to say sleep. I just thought of it, yeah.
The sleep.
You really are. That's a real thing. Yeah, that's a rough one.
It's almost like I want to sleep more. I just can't.
I just hate, because you know what I hate about it is like with most of your stuff, there's solutions for it.
Yeah.
And then we get far into prep and we're like in an Olympia prep or something and you're not sleeping. I feel so like helpless. I'm like, I wish I could do something. Like find some plants or something that you can eat. Like I feel like there's got to be something I'm missing here because you get so beat up by it. And I can see you. I think that's whenever you get like so stressful where you have your like once a year cry.
Oh yeah, twice a year cry.
Twice a year cry.
It's only happens when I'm very sleep deprived too.
Yeah,
very sleep deprived.
Poor Ash. That's what I'm like. Oh, poor Ashley. Like poor Ashley. So anyway, guys, send us your flaws. Maybe we'll do another one of these. These are kind of fun. They're kind of a fun one. And thanks so much for listening. We appreciate it. And thank you guys on Instagram too.
Thank you.
Talk to you guys later.
Toodaloo.